Our finished project is going to look like this, okay? So it's a 3D multimedia artwork. Multimedia means they're using a few different materials, so we're using paper, newspaper, and paint for this project. Now, I'm making mine leaves and plants and a scene from nature because the weather's been so gorgeous and it's springtime and everything. The flowers are starting to come up, but you can make yours any theme you want. We're just following the same skill set, okay? The first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating our painted newspaper. So we're going to get our newspaper pages and we're going to cut them up into small pieces that just have the writing on them. So I'm cutting away any of the white space. So I'm just cutting, see, I'm just cutting around there until I just have the writing part. So do quite a few of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to paint them. So I have 3 or 4 I'm going to work with. The next thing you're going to do is you'll just need to get a cover for your table. I normally use just some scrap paper or something. Lay it down so you're not going to get any paint on your nice table. Get your bits of newspaper and decide what paint you're going to use. I'm going to work with blues and greens because I want mine to look like leaves on a plant. So if you had a poster paint, what you would do is put a small bit out on your palette and then you would add water to it. You want it a bit liquidy because you want to be able to see some of the writing from the newspaper through it. If you're working with watercolors, you're just going to spread out your paint. Okay, so get a few colors because you can mix a few different colors onto it. I'm going to mix some of my blues and my greens together. Okay, so there's some blues and greens there. And then pick the side that has the most writing on it and you're going to paint over it. So paint the entire thing right out to the edges, and you're going to do this with several pieces of newspaper. So what we're going to do is you're going to leave those bits of newspaper drying in a windowsill somewhere sunny until they're bone dry. See, they can't be wet at all because we need to cut them, and if you try and cut paper when it's wet, it'll end up tearing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our piece of paper. I think this project works in a smaller size quite well. So if this was an A4 sheet of paper, you fold it over in half like you're making a card, and you're going to cut it in half or tear it, so that you have half an A4 sheet, which is A5 in size. This is the size that we're going to work with for our project. Now, so still keep your cover on the table. Make sure your brush is really washed out, and we're going to work on some of our plant leaves. So we're going to practice first on a scrap piece of paper, and then we're going to do the real thing. Now we're going to practice making plant stems. We're going to use quite a thin brush for making our plant stems. The first thing that you need to do is create some paint to work with. So if you don't have a palette, you can use just an old plate or a piece of plastic from an old lid, and you just create a bit of green to work with there. So this is a scrap piece of paper we're going to work with, so you can just use any old scrap paper you have, and we're going to work on the pressure of our hand. So when we start, you press down and then you let the pressure off the brush and you go up. So push down with the brush and then let it off and go off like that in a tip. So you're just going to practice on this piece of paper, pressing down and letting it off. So press down, then let the pressure off, so you're lifting the brush off the page. So I want you to fill this entire page with that. Press down, let it off. Then start tilting it slightly, making it look more natural, because it is swaying in the wind. So keep going until you're happy with that skill. Press down, pull off. And remember, everyone's is going to look different because everybody paints differently because we're all individuals. Just keep going like that. It's sort of like riding a bike in that it's muscle memory. So the more you practice, the better you get at it. And no matter how many times I do it, I'm always going to practice it before I start my finished piece. Now, so make sure that you have enough water that it's really smooth, okay? Really smooth. Okay, so just keep going like that. You can practice then just having one amount of pressure. So just the same pressure the whole way across until your whole page is filled with lots of squiggles. Then you're going to move to your real page. Now I'm mixing in a few different types of green. I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of purple into it as well to make it a little bit dark. Okay, so when you have a mix, you're going to start at the bottom of your page here, okay, and you're going to work upwards. Now, any plant or any tree or anything natural generally starts bigger at the roots and gets smaller and more fragile as it goes up. So that's what we're going to practice here. So I'm going to go thick and then thin. All right, so you're just going to do that, make a few stalks going all the way up. So thick and thin like that, and you can always come back so you can add more to it. And I don't want all of them swaying, I want them to sway in different ways. So this one, I'm going to put it going like that a little bit and tilt it up. Now it's time to add smaller little vines coming off it. So this one I'm just going to make a little bit darker here. And then I'm going to have little thin lines coming off it. So these are very thin and delicate. So this one here, I'm going to go up and have a thin line coming off because these are where all of our little leaves are going to go. So this would be the same if you were making a tree. These could be little trees as well. Going off like that. Nice and delicate. And then I'm just going to put a few more little branches at the bottom just to even it out. And then I'm just going to make that a bit darker there. Now what I'm going to do is get a little bit more purple into my green. And at the bottom, I'm just going to make it darker because it's further away from the light. So these are lighter because the sun is coming here. And these are a little bit darker down here. So make your little trees or your little plants, add a bit more dark to it. And if you didn't have purple, what other colors could you use? You could add some brown or a little bit of black maybe. Make sure you don't add too much black. See, I added too much black there, so then I need to add a bit more green to it. Because black is very strong. We don't want too much black in it. So there, you can just go up there. Now, so I have my little trees with their branches. You can add some painted leaves as well. So you can just add a little leaf. So a leaf ends in a point like that. So it sort of looks like the shape of an eye, doesn't it? A leaf shape. We're going to let this dry and we're going to go and get our pieces of newspaper, make sure they're really dry, and we're going to start cutting out our leaf shapes. If these aren't dry, leave them until they're super crisp.